Mondays were always hell, but this one felt custom designed to break me. I'd barely gotten through the door before my inbox lit up like a Christmas tree. Insurance claim rejections, reschedule requests, one athlete screaming because we double booked him with a rookie tech who barely knew how to tape an ankle. Someone had filed an outdated billing code that could have triggered a compliance audit. I fixed it before our license flagged it, again. My wrist was wrapped, still jacked up from a fall last week, and I hadn't had a real meal since Friday night. Just some almonds and a string cheese I stole from the break room fridge. But if I didn't hold the place together, no one would. Upstairs, Kenzie was filming another episode of her Rehab Reset series. I saw it on the Slack channel, Cold Plunges and Inner Radiance, how to cleanse your nervous system and your calendar. While I was on the phone with a claims rep, coaching Haley, our new junior PT, through how not to commit a HIPAA violation, I heard her giggling over a sound bath in the employee lounge. She'd claimed the space for holistic synergy production. Half the staff couldn't access their therapy notes because she'd moved the Wi-Fi router. Again. Quick note, before we start, how's your day going and where are you joining from? By noon, I'd rerouted a cluster of misfiled insurance claims through our backup clearinghouse, patched the broken payment platform using legacy code I wrote 2 years ago, and flagged a regulatory misstep that could have cost the clinic tens of thousands, but no one said a word. Not even a good catch, just Kenzie's Slack pinging like a mosquito. Let's pivot toward vibrational synergy, babe. She always called me babe when she wanted something she didn't understand fixed by someone she didn't respect. At 4, she held a team alignment circle in the front waiting room, passed out mini smoothies, played a crystal bowl, and did a 5-minute gratitude toast to emotional elasticity. Everyone clapped. I just logged off, closed my cracked monitor, and stared at the tiny reflection of myself in the corner of the screen. My stomach growled. I still hadn't eaten, but the systems were standing. Because I was still standing, barely, and no one noticed. Right after I shut down my monitor, the next slap came in, a full company calendar invite titled Authenticity Realignment Week, Discover Your Inner Flow. It was mandatory. The invite had avocado emojis, links to personality quizzes with names like the Ego Refractor, and a self-actualization punch card, offering branded tote bags for workshop attendance. I clicked yes, didn't have a choice. The first session was the next morning, in the elevated movement pod. That used to be the gym, back when we trained real people with real injuries. Now it smelled like eucalyptus and resentment. Kenzie stood barefoot on a yoga mat in the center of the room, wearing a Heal the Hustle sweatshirt and talking into a ring light. Today we're going to identify the fear frequencies blocking our true alignment, she said, slow and serious like she was channeling wisdom instead of recycling TikTok psychology. I want each of you to write down the modality of your internal resistance. What keeps you from being fully present in your role? The intern next to me actually wrote doubt spirals. Someone else scribbled my inner critic. I stared at the paper, didn't touch my pen. Kenzie walked around barefoot, pausing at each mat, nodding at answers like they were life-changing. Then she hit the mic again. Some of us are still living in legacy mindsets, she said, eyes scanning the room. Control frameworks. Stagnation bias. Fear overflow. She looked right at me, held it a second too long. A slide lit up behind her. On it, my entire division, operations and compliance, was labeled Legacy Friction Zone. That's all I needed to see. After it ended, while people were hanging around trying to earn their next punch card stamp, this one for a microgreens mixer, I walked back to my desk, opened a blank doc, and typed notations, misconduct, infrastructure ownership, access rights. That was the first step. I started quietly digging through my archive. Pulled chat transcripts from Kenzie's off-platform software asks, stuff she wasn't licensed to request. Screenshots of her pushing third-party apps without HIPAA security clearance. Payment logs rerouted through personal wellness accounts. I knew where to look. I built the damn system. I was the infrastructure. It was all still there. Sloppy, naked, obvious. One file at a time, I copied them to a private folder under my LLC's encrypted server. Not company-owned, mine. Something I negotiated back when I still had leverage and her dad was too busy selling partnerships to NFL recovery clinics to care about details. Kenzie had no idea the house she was burning still had my name in the foundation. By late afternoon, I had 3 folders filled. Unauthorized installs, regulatory shortcuts, data ownership gaps. I labeled them plainly. No code names, no metaphors. I wasn't writing a novel. I was building a case. A Slack ping popped up. Kenzie again. Feeling the shift already. How's the realignment flowing for you, babe? I didn't answer. I just added a new tab in my document. Incident timestamp, workshop slide, legacy friction zone, 9:34 a.m. She thought she was clever. She thought this was hers. She forgot I kept receipts. I was finishing up the compliance logs for the week when I heard the click of acrylic nails on my desk divider. I didn't even look up. Hey, babe, Kenzie sang, holding out a sweating cup like it was a peace offering. The drink inside was pink and glittery, probably dragon fruit and collagen or whatever her influencer friend was pushing this week. I just wanted to check in, she said, dragging out each word like she was doing a voiceover, noticing a little resistance to the cultural realignment. I finally looked at her. She was smiling too hard, always too hard. I've been focusing on keeping things compliant. She blinked, the smile twitching just slightly. Totally. Just make sure you're not blocking your own vibrational integration, okay? She set the drink on my keyboard like it was a sacred gift, then stuck a neon post-it next to my monitor. Detox the doubt, flow, not fear. Then she was gone, just like that. No mention of the software patches I'd pulled off last night to prevent a claim error. No thanks for keeping her little operation from racking up another fine. I tossed the drink in the trash, lid still sealed. 10 minutes later, an email popped up from procurement. RE, budget request denied, equipment ask, deep tissue stim units. Reason, temporary vision recalibration. Please defer requests until Q4 intention mapping. Intention mapping. I walked to the break room, grabbed 2 napkins, clenched them in my good hand, and walked straight back. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just sat and added another line to my growing doc under patient treatment impacted by budget cuts. At the weekly staff meeting that afternoon, they passed out mindfulness mints in little tins and turned off the overhead lights. The new director of brand therapy, a guy named Shane who used to run a podcast about masculine vulnerability, opened with a breathing exercise. Then it was open forum. I raised my hand. There's a problem in the injury treatment logs, I said. The data from Hydra sessions isn't syncing to patient files. If we get audited, that's a serious liability. It looks like untracked care. Kenzie didn't even look at the screen. She glanced at Shane and gave this tiny shake of her head. Shane leaned forward. Ellie, can we reframe that as a curiosity rather than a criticism? I think what you're sensing might be a negativity bias, rooted in control narrative patterns. It's not a narrative. It's a gap in compliance. I'm literally describing a system flaw. Kenzie tilted her head and gave me that soft, condescending smile she reserved for when she wanted me to feel small. Maybe this is an invitation to explore where fear of change is manifesting in our language. I looked around the table. No one said anything. Haley stared at her lap. The interns nodded like sheep. I said nothing else. I just opened my notebook and added 2 more tabs. Unresolved risk events, leadership response transcript. By the time I got home, my jaw was locked from clenching all day. I didn't even take off my shoes. I just dropped my bag on the floor, walked straight to the kitchen, grabbed a Coke from the fridge, and went to my laptop. I opened the archive. Contracts, NDAs, HIPAA threads. My original merger doc from 3 years ago, when Kenzie's dad bought out our clinic and rebranded everything into this pastel fever dream. The employment agreement I signed was in the last folder, buried under a subfolder labeled Wicker and Pine Operations Legal. That was the name of my old LLC before they rolled it under their umbrella. Only thing was, we never dissolved it, just licensed the tech I built. I scrolled to the section I remembered, heart knocking slow and steady in my chest. Section 11.3, Digital Infrastructure IP Clause. In the event of employment termination without cause, all ownership rights to digital systems developed under license revert to the licensee's holding entity. Plain English. If they fired me for no reason, the whole back end, scheduling, billing, treatment records, and compliance logs, snapped back to me, not them. I sat there for a second, still, quiet. Then I got to work. I logged into the master server, downloaded log access trails, mirrored the full appointment database, copied every client record time-stamped under my system tags, all of it. Not to mess with, just to hold, just in case. The scheduler, mine. The billing system, mine. The automation platform that caught 82% of insurance errors before they hit processing, also mine. Kenzie's team never rebuilt anything. They just reskinned the UI and called it Rehab Flow. Every line of functional code still pointed back to my original framework, the one Carla made sure I licensed to them, not gave away. Big difference. I triple-checked my backups, uploaded new encryption keys, split access over 3 secure cloud environments, just like Carla taught me. Then I went to her folder. Carla had moved to New Mexico after getting out of private healthcare law, but we still talk sometimes. Just memes and recipes now. Still, her notes on the contract were all there. Crystal clear, time-stamped, admissible. I didn't change anything in the system. Didn't restrict access. Didn't even log anyone out. I just took back what was already mine. While I worked, my phone lit up with Instagram notifications. Kenzie had posted a new reel from the roof. A yoga flow, her voice over the footage. When you release attachment to structure, abundance finds you. Breathe in bravery. Exhale boundaries. She captioned it. Hashtag healing leaders, hashtag sunset intentions, hashtag detox your day. I powered my phone off. Finished syncing the last server, checked the logs one final time. Then I closed my laptop and went to sleep. No fireworks, no rage, just peace. Because I didn't need to scream. I had the claws. Friday started off wrong. The clinic felt full. Too many people for a weekday afternoon. Staff that usually stayed buried in their cubicles were milling around the front desk, pretending to organize things that didn't need organizing. Nobody made eye contact. I walked into ops and felt the shift in the air, like everyone knew something they weren't allowed to say. Haley smiled too quickly, then dropped her eyes. The new intern offered me coffee she'd never offered before. Kenzie stood near the atrium, whispering with HR behind the giant fiddle leaf fig she insisted invited grounding energy. They both froze when I walked past, then suddenly started nodding like they'd been talking about lighting fixtures. I sat at my desk, opened a patient feedback report, and didn't read a word of it. Just watched the Slack notifications tick down one by one. Everyone going offline for offsite strategy check-in. By 3, my gut had settled into a cold knot. I didn't move. I didn't pack anything. At 4 on the dot, I heard my name, not over the intercom, just loud enough to cut through the buzz of nervous whispering. Kenzie stood in the center of the open floor, holding a lavender clipboard like she was hosting a pop-up retreat. HR stood just behind her, hands folded, face stiff. "Hi, everyone," she said, voice light but forced. "We're sunsetting outdated modalities to make space for a new phase of restorative innovation. And with that, we lovingly thank Ellie for her journey here." She turned and smiled at me, then held out a pastel ceramic pot. Inside it was a tiny snake plant with a sticker on the side that read, "Grow with Flow." HR stepped in and handed me a sealed envelope. "Effective immediately," she said. "No cause stated. Termination is final." "There is no severance," Kenzie added. "But your energy leaves a legacy, babe." I didn't speak, didn't blink. I just reached into my bag and pulled out a manila envelope. No label, no words. I handed it to the guy standing next to HR, the new technical strategy assistant. His real background? Former D1 volleyball player. Degree in marketing. Didn't know the difference between back-end logic and browser cache. He took it like it was nothing. I nodded once. Then I turned around and walked out. Past the fake gratitude circle, past the smoothie bar, past the wall mural that read, "Recover, Reset, Radiate." No one followed. I got in my car, closed the door, and sat in silence for a second. Then my phone buzzed. "Carla." "Ready when you are," I replied with one word, "Go." By 8:03 Monday morning, the front desk was already in meltdown. Phones were ringing nonstop. Clients were packed shoulder to shoulder in the lobby, standing around with clipboards no one could process. Haley kept refreshing the check-in screen, but it just stayed gray. Spinning wheel, then 5:04 gateway timeout. "Try the backup login," someone said from the billing desk. "We did," another tech called out. "It won't take the override key." In ops, the clinic manager was holding a printout like it was supposed to explain something. "If anyone knows why the treatment logs aren't syncing, they're gone," the scheduling lead cut in. "All of it. Appointments, SOAP notes, insurance queues. The system's just dead." Kenzie walked in barefoot, sipping from a copper water bottle and wearing a sweatshirt that said, "Align or die." She paused, looking around like someone had spilled juice on her yoga mat. "Okay, let's not feed the chaos," she said, raising her voice over the noise. "This is a chance to practice collective regulation. Everyone, Take a moment. Breathe through the resistance. Feel the learning. The IT lead didn't breathe. He stormed down the hallway, two laptops under his arm, shouting into his headset. I knew him. Name was Jared. He'd been here since before the rebrand. He used to ask me for admin passwords when the billing software hiccuped. At 8:47, he finally slammed into the main floor. I need everyone to stop trying to log in. You're making it worse, he snapped. Kenzie blinked at him like he was a plant dying in bad lighting. Let's be mindful of tone, Jared. We're locked out, he said, ignoring her. Every backend credential is being rejected. Not just users, admins, root, compliance, payment gateways. Even emergency access is being blocked. Kenzie waved her water bottle. Then reset it. We can't reset it, he snapped. It's not ours. Silence hit like a dropped dumbbell. What do you mean? She asked, suddenly less breathy. Jared walked over to the nearest monitor, angled it toward her, and pointed at the access log on the screen. This is what it's looking for, he said. It's searching for a remote license key. At the top of the screen, in bold system print, was the line, License Authority, Wicker and Pine Systems, LLC. Kenzie stared at it like it was written in another language. That's not one of our vendors. Jared didn't even try to explain. It is now. The infrastructure's pulling key validation from an external domain. That name's baked into the OS kernel. This isn't a plug-and-play overlay. It's the root system. Okay, so, call them, she said, trying to recover. Tell them we need a rekey. You don't get it? He said, slower now. There is no support line. This isn't a commercial platform. This is proprietary architecture. Custom that company owns the code. And it's not us, Kenzie folded her arms. So you're saying we don't have access to our own system? Jared didn't flinch. I'm saying we never did. You just didn't notice until the license key expired at midnight. More silence. In the lobby, someone was yelling at the front desk about a rescheduled MRI. A player's agent was on speakerphone, demanding answers about their QB's therapy plan. Kenzie took a deep breath, lips twitching like she was about to fake smile. Then she looked at Jared. Fix it. He shook his head. We're not licensed anymore. He walked off. Kenzie stood there in her barefoot silence, surrounded by chaos, and said nothing. Legal got pulled in before noon. 3 of them holed up in the HOR office with folders, tablets, and half-drunk iced coffees, sweating all over a mindfulness coloring book someone had left behind. The tension leaked out under the door. Even the front desk staff could feel it. Someone tried to blame the outage on a bad update. That lasted 12 minutes. Then they found the contract. It was buried under my original merger file. Signed by Kenzie, dated and stamped with her stupid glitter pen signature from her conscious leader phase. Section 11.3, the one Carla made me fight for during the acquisition. Kenzie barged into legal, red-faced, and loud. She was just a tech assistant. She managed forms. The general counsel didn't flinch. She built the core system infrastructure. The back-end, data logs, scheduling framework. It was all developed under a licensing agreement with her LLC. You signed it? She didn't own anything, Kenzie snapped. She was on payroll. And her employment contract stated that in the event of termination without cause, the lawyer said, flipping the page calmly, ownership of all proprietary digital systems reverts to her holding entity. Kenzie paced in circles, sandals slapping hard against the tile. She tricked us. No, legal replied. She out-executed you. Calls were already pouring in. 3 high-profile athletes missed scheduled treatments over the weekend. One had a publicist screaming through the phone, threatening to pull a 6-figure retainer if their records weren't restored by close of business. Then came the agency representative, a sports firm out of Phoenix. They handled endorsements and injury management for pro ball clients. Their head of legal called the clinic directly and said if they couldn't access archived therapy compliance notes by Friday, they'd sue. For breach, data loss, and contract violation. Kenzie tried again. Can't we just override the system? No. The CTO cut in from the hallway. Any attempt to force access or generate a duplicate key would trigger license tampering alerts. That's a felony. The encryption's locked to external validation. Kenzie turned to legal like they'd suddenly stopped being lawyers. So we're just paralyzed? You gave her the keys, legal said. When you fired her, you handed her the system. Someone near the door whispered, She warned them. Remember? That staff meeting? She said something about compliance gaps. Kenzie heard it. She turned, nostrils flaring. She sabotaged us. The room went quiet again. Then the email alerts started coming in. HIPAA compliance failures, late verifications, payment processors flagging inconsistent records. By 3 p.m., the projected fines had crossed 6 figures. Kenzie sat down slowly, like her legs were finally catching up to her ego. She was just background noise, she whispered. Nobody even liked her. The general counsel folded the contract closed. She didn't need to be liked. She wrote the system. By mid-morning Tuesday, the boardroom had eyes. Elias Dorsey, the majority investor, ex-NFL, linebacker turned startup rainmaker, flew in on his private jet and skipped his usual team grind gratitude huddle. No blazer, no smile, just a plain black t-shirt and a stack of printed downtime logs in his hand. He walked into the boardroom like he still had pads on. Who gave away the goddamn system? No one answered. He slapped the papers on the table. 176 hours of blocked access. Treatment records compromised. 4 pending agency disputes, compliance violations climbing. And this, he held up the contract, was signed by you. Kenzie stood near the whiteboard like she was leading a vision board workshop, not a disaster review. It's just tech friction. Ellie's being dramatic. She's always had control issues. Elias stared at her like she was speaking Martian. Then he flipped the contract toward her so hard it slid halfway down the table. That your signature? Kenzie didn't answer. Is that your signature? He said again. She swallowed. Yes, but you gave her the infrastructure, he said, cutting her off. Not a plugin, not a cloud vendor. You handed her full legal control of the core operational platform and then fired her without cause. She tried again. I didn't think she'd actually... You didn't think. His voice cracked like a helmet hit. You signed off on locking our entire clinic behind a license key you don't even own. Legal didn't speak. Neither did the CTO. No one moved. Kenzie tried to smile, weak now. It's salvageable. She just needs attention. This is her way of processing displacement. He turned to HR. Get her out of here. Wait, what? You're done, he said flatly. Get her badge, get her laptop, get her out. She laughed like it was a joke. No one laughed with her. The HR lead stood and reached for her clinic badge. She backed up a step. You're seriously? Badge, Elias said again. She dropped it on the table. Her lips were tight, her eyes wet, but she didn't say another word. She walked out stiff, like every limb wanted to scream but wasn't allowed. Security met her at the stairwell, her badge deactivated before she hit the 3rd step. That afternoon, I was home eating peanut butter toast when my laptop pinged. Subject, urgent, request to discuss IP access and potential reinstatement. From board@regencyrehab.co. Sent 2:12 p.m. to ellie@wickerandpine.io. The message was short, 3 lines, formal. Careful, they wanted to talk. They wanted back in. I didn't respond. Legal blinked first. By Wednesday morning, they issued an internal statement. The clinic would need to pursue rapid renegotiation under original IP licensing parameters to avoid ongoing operational and financial damages. In plain English, they were screwed unless they played by my rules. Kenzie's name disappeared from every ops document by noon. Her founder's flow bar, the one with the smoothie station and stress spritzers, got dismantled quietly. Cartwheeled away. Staff pretended not to watch. I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. From my living room, I kept my server logs open, the ones tracking access attempts to Wicker and Pine's infrastructure. Every time someone at the clinic tried to run a sync, restore a file, ping an endpoint, it logged. By Thursday night, I'd counted 219 failed pings, all from the same blocked source. They still hadn't figured out that nothing could be patched, nothing rebuilt, unless I approved it. They could wipe the interface, rebrand the logos, swap out their color palettes all day. Didn't matter. The engine under the hood was mine, and it wasn't running without the key. At 3:42 p.m., I got the call. Unknown number. Flagged as private board line. I picked up but didn't say anything first. Ellie, a man said, probably one of the partners. We'd like to have a conversation about resolving this. I let him sit in the silence. We're prepared to discuss terms. I waited another beat. Then I said, flat and cold, see section 11.3, subsections A through D. You already agreed. There was a pause, a sharp exhale. We understand. I hung up before he could try to soften it. I sat back and looked at the logs again. Another 5 failed pings blinked into view. The system wasn't just down, it was grieving. It had been stripped, ignored, overwritten with hashtags and self help slogans, and now it was demanding memory, like I was. At the clinic, the board gathered behind closed doors. Carla sent me a screenshot later, taken by some intern who still followed me on LinkedIn. Everyone looked pale, papers everywhere, red folders, printed contracts, nobody smiling. In the corner of that room, a junior paralegal whispered something as the last file closed. She didn't want revenge, he said. She wanted to be remembered. He wasn't wrong. I didn't crash their system out of spite. I didn't torch the place or leak anything or slam them on social media. I just took back what was mine. They thought silence meant surrender, but sometimes silence just means you're waiting for someone to realize who built the damn walls they're standing inside. 3 months later, I had a badge again, this time with my actual title on it, Systems Architect. My new office was in a glass tower in downtown Minneapolis, clean and quiet, no beanbags, no aroma diffusers, no rise and radiate posters in the kitchen. Just real professionals doing actual work, the kind that doesn't need hashtags to mean something. The plant they gave me when they fired me, that little snake plant in the pastel pot, it sat in my new window now, healthy, growing, right where it belonged. I kept my headphones in most days, tuned into build logs, code testing, system risk models. The platform I'd started years ago at the clinic, my platform, had evolved. Faster, sharper, airtight. Now it lived inside a national medical compliance firm with real security, real contracts, and real respect. That afternoon, I was uploading a fresh branch of the framework into their protected system when one of the junior devs leaned over my shoulder. "You built all this alone?" I nodded. Then added without looking up, "This time, I don't give it away." He just whistled and went back to his screen. Back at the clinic, I heard they tried to rebuild. New CTO, fresh team, outsourced consultants. Didn't matter. The bones were wrong. Every attempt crashed under compliance flags or failed syncs. I never followed up, never replied to the second email, never checked their socials. Kenzie's name was gone from the company site. No mention of her on the About page, no archived videos, not even a cached quote from her Rehab Reset series. Like she'd never existed. That was fine. I didn't need applause. I just needed terms that held. And this time, I wrote every single one.